So we all know about the achievement gap here in the US. Well, it seems also to be associated with a discipline gap. The discipline gap is the systematic bias that exists here in the US in the expression of punitive disciplinary behavior toward African Americans in schools in the United States. And that's after very carefully adjusting for socioeconomic status and for a whole bunch of other important characteristics. And one of the key contributors to the disciplinary gap is implicit bias. And so we have begun to systematically investigate this, and we have used methods excuse me, to cultivate awareness and connection. They're simple mental practices that come from contemplative traditions but are completely secular and have been studied scientifically, and we've investigated their impact on behavioral measures of implicit bias. And so this is very new data, not yet published from our center. Matt Hirschberg is the first author, who is a postdoc in our center. And we use behavioral reaction time-based measures of implicit bias. And these are teachers in training who are being studied. And we had them go through an 8-week intervention, which met for approximately 2 hours per week for 8 weeks. And then there were some additional longer sessions. The total intervention was about 20 hours. And what we found is that using measures of race bias, implicit bias, at both post-test as well as its 6-month follow-up, what we see is that the participants who receive the treatment, these are mental exercises to cultivate awareness and connection. There's no mention of bias in the training whatsoever. They show reductions on these behavioral measures of implicit bias and this is a randomized controlled trial, and they show persistence of those changes at 6 months follow-up. And that's pretty remarkable because data in the literature on implicit bias suggests that training programs that are out there often produce effects that are transient. And one of the key questions is, what does it take to produce more enduring change? And these data suggest that these changes indeed endure for at least this 6-month follow-up.